Does that sound okay, Josh?
Yeah, I just got a notice that the meeting's being recorded. Is everybody okay with being recorded?
There's a lot of people who would
Not
love
sure
this
who is.
recorded.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a screen share here, so I'm going to lose a lot of faces. So if anyone's got a frowny face or giving me a certain finger, tell me to zip it and answer better questions. I'll bring up the Excel spreadsheet that we put together. I'm going to block off, what unit owners ask what questions, but, feel free to, when we get to your question, the architect will answer. If it's yours and you want a further clarification, feel free to ask. Just a little bit of an overview. This would be, in essence, the start of, preliminary schematic design. The architect in this first wave has gone through, and this is really assessing what needs to be done and coming up with a very basic sketch that was included in your reports. So then that, in essence, dovetails into the next where actual formal plans are produced that can be submitted for building permits to the County of Maui. The first round of surveys is completed and those are distributed. The proposal, we got the final number of 35 units, I believe, a week or so ago. That proposal was sent to Reno. Reno has signed that. So things are moving forward with scheduling the second batch of going into units and gathering information. Last town hall we did, if anyone missed what the pause was, is that there are certain variances that the County of Maui is giving, like the 1970 code for stairways, so 30 inches can remain, and Dave can correct me if I'm wrong. They're giving you an exemption from fire sprinkler, and the ratio of mezzanine to livable space downstairs, if you go by the code, it's open space downstairs. So that'd be like your hallway and your living room only. And that would really hinder the allowable square foot up in the mezzanine. The County of Maui is allowing the bedroom square footage to be counted, which increases the square foot space that can be livable upstairs in the mezzanine. So up until just, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, this was verbal communication between the County of Maui and AB&B. And if you've done any dealings with the County of Maui or any authority having jurisdiction for that matter, sometimes what you hear verbally and what gets put on paper doesn't exactly line up. So we were requested that this county put those variances in writing. They did provide those, and that was the trigger to pick up this whole process again, finalize the reports that have been issued, and proceed with the second survey. So that's a little bit of an overview. We can dive into questions. I'm going to do a screen share if everyone can see an Excel sheet that's up. Reno, you got a thumbs up if you can see it?
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yep.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, Josh.
Yes, Dave.
We kind of put something together to address some of these, and there's an overarching theme of a few of them. So it might be helpful for us to show what we have. I think it'll answer a lot of the questions, and then we can jump back into those specific ones if they weren't answered. I think it might be helpful. Okay. I know some of this is not super clear.
Shelby, would you enable Dave to do a screen share?
Can you share? There we go. All right. Great. Okay, so we just wanted to walk you through really basically what you're looking at. There were some questions that maybe it wasn't understood. So one answer to one of the questions, the big dashed line, that is our path of egress calculation. So that is what we would consider part of our life safety plan drawing. That is not intended to insinuate you need a wall or anything else. That is just to show the furthest path of egress to get out of the loft to meet code requirements. So Just wanted to kind of, put that out there. And then what we wanted to do is we wanted to answer some of the questions about grandfathering or things that are already happening. So we'd like to show you the original section of the space. And let me just say, I'm going to reiterate what Josh said. What the county is offering here, allowing us to use the closed space downstairs as part of the calculation, is extremely helpful and valuable. So what you see here is you see the permit set of drawings for the loft spaces. Now, this is in general, some of the loft spaces, the end units, corners, etc., are a little bit different, but for the most part, this is what was permitted. So one of the things, a couple questions were on what we would call the guard. A lot of people call the railing. The technical term in the code is guard. That's what keeps you from falling from an elevated position. Those were originally designed, and maybe you can zoom in a little bit more so we make sure we see, to be what is required for this occupancy, which is 42 inches. So you see it's 3 foot 6 inches there. So that's what we're required to have in a sort of a commercial occupancy multifamily. So just know that that's what it was. And then the other thing, we've called out an existing beam. So that existing beam is where there was an original wall when the building was built. Let me say this, when the building was designed and what was permitted, this is how it was drawn. Whether or not it was built like that, that's a different story. This is what the county has on record as far as what was designed and what was supposed to be built. Now, if you want to understand what was kind of there before and what you have now to understand maybe what changed before you purchased it, etc., this is some hints for you. And so that overhead beam that's in the ceiling and in the roof framing, that marks the spot where we hit 7 feet. The bottom of that beam should be at 7 feet above the finished floor. If someone added flooring later and it's only 6 foot 11 1/4, that's not something we want to get into. It's 7 feet per the drawings. Now, that's the bottom of that beam. So there is a little space, zoom in, we colored it in green here. If you need to, you can utilize this additional space before we hit 7 feet again. So this is your little brace space. The red space is the ceiling is going to be below 7 feet, and that is not usable, occupiable, habitable space. So that would need to be sort of a closed off, empty, just not, you can't use it. So the other thing, there's another dimension that you can look at per this drawing, 14 feet 7 inches from your exterior wall towards the lanai is where that loft originally started. So if you want to look at your own unit and try to figure that out, that will help you understand if it was extended, etc. Now, given the fact that originally those lofts varied plus minus about 156 to 168 square feet based on it being cut off at that beam, which would be less than the roughly 199 square feet that is allowable. And that allowable is going to be all of the floor area, including a landing for the stairs. So that is a usable portion. And so that will be in the square footage. So if you have an unadulterated original loft, it will be less than the maximum allowed, which would be the 168 roughly in that neighborhood, depending on the exact unit that you have. So we just have an example unit here, and we're just wanting to show this is not anybody particular unit. This is just one to show you an example. There was a question about whether or not the headspace above the toilet, if it's less than 7 feet, should that be okay? Unfortunately, with this occupancy, when I say occupancy, I mean an R2 occupancy. That's stricter than an R3 occupancy, which would be a single family home. This is stricter than that. It's an R2 occupancy. So we cannot have a toilet in that red zone. Nothing in that red zone should be usable space. So I hope that this kind of overview gives you a little bit of background and kind of shows, you know, some explanation to what we're going to be talking about. And then with the stairs, you know, that 30 inches, that's going to be the width of the tread. We can extend into that with the handrail. That would be, and it's required by code to have a handrail. So we can extend into that with a legal handrail. But we have to have that 30 inches. Today's code requires 36. So this is a huge, you know, bonus for that. And then the other issue is going to be what we call the rise and run. Typically, for a typical second story in residential setting with this height of finished floor to finished floor, we need about 14 feet roughly of run of those stairs. So just to get an idea. So if your stairs, it showed up in the report that they don't meet code and they have a higher rise, that means you have to step higher than 7 inches, or a lower run, meaning less than 10 inches, then that's not going to be a compliant stair. So with that, I think it might have helped illustrate some of those answers to some of those questions. And with that, I think we can jump into the list of questions, Josh. So we can probably quit sharing your screen. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that was a great way to open up and probably answer a lot of questions, Dave. There we go. Yes. Dave, you have these, where'd you go on Hollywood Squares? Dave, you have these same questions. And
Yes.
and I'm just going to go through them. I think some of them, you know, we've already addressed and we can just reiterate. So I've heard the term livable space and usable space. I'm wondering if they're interchangeable and how they would be calculated into formula for the floor space of our mezzanine loft. Are closets and or owner's lockers included in loft floor space?
Yes, it is included. Everything up there would be included.
Okay.
All of the space that you can get to would be included in that overall gross square footage of what's allowed. So everything you can get to needs to be less than 199 square feet, plus or minus.
This next one is oh, go ahead, Dave.
I was just gonna say the next one's the 7 feet for the above the toilet, and there's not an exemption for that, unfortunately.
So walk me through this one, because this could be a potentially very big one. If you got a toilet pushed all the way back and you have the low spot underneath 7 feet, are we shrinking bathrooms at this point in time and moving toilets?
If there is not 7 feet between the ceiling and the finished floor, then we can't have the toilet in there, unfortunately. So that toilet would need to move or go away. And please don't shoot the messenger. I don't like the code any more than any of you. In fact, I probably hate it more than all of you because it dictates every single day of my life.
Hey, Dave, one question, and then I see some Simpson colored hands going up here. I remember over at a different property that you and I did the same thing with lofts. Walk me through this, I'm hazy. In bathrooms, I thought specifically there was an exemption if it was like 50% is less than a certain height. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do. In that one, there was a variance that was approved. So if we were to get a variance for that and that were to be approved, then that would be a different story. What we're working with is what we have from the county in writing, which doesn't exclude anything from the code, the current code in regards to, minimum ceiling height. And I would also go back to the original section that we showed. The original architects had stopped that space at 7 feet ceiling height. So they were privy to it then. So if that wall got pushed back, there is a little bit of grace period, that little bit of green area we showed you. Other than that, there shouldn't be anything in there. No usable space.
So I got a question, and I would propose this, maybe A, B, and B or you, that, now that we've gathered a lot of data, and this might be a good one to take notes on, both our office and yours, Dave, is that, look at that past project where we had 50% of the allowable ceiling height underneath that 7 foot, as long as it wasn't greater than 50%. If we can request that, because now that we've gathered a lot of data on what is at the Papakea, that exemption would be a huge, tremendous help to these people not having to reconfigure bathrooms.
Yep, I agree.
I think we need to make that request.
Yep.
Yeah, if I could say something really quick, because the IR project has already started, and a lot of us have paid for the plumbing to be hooked up or stubbed out. It's kind of already done. The plumbing's already done for where the existing toilets are for some of the lofts. So I think it's something that we really need to try to convince the county to give us a little leeway on.
Yep.
Darcy, do you got a question?
Thanks. So I want to just clarify something that I heard the folks from Hawaii Off Grid talk about. So the denominator of the calculation for square footage includes the living room, the hallway, and they've given us the bathroom. Does it include kitchen and closets down on the main level as well?
Includes everything.
Okay.
The whole first floor. It's a gift from the county of Maui. This is something to be very, very appreciative for. It's almost unbelievable. If you'd have asked me if they'd have done that, I would have said no. So, yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah.
That's why closets are included in the numerator for the loft.
Correct. Well, and then upstairs in that loft area, we have to use everything just in general because it's mostly for the egress portion and for the unique nuances of a loft within a space. It's still part of that space. So I won't get into the crazy nuances, but yes, we have to think about everything up there.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Stack.
Yes, thank you. I would just put my hand up as soon as I saw this 7 foot issue over the toilet, and in some cases the sink is in that same wall, because that's where the plumbing comes up, along that wall. So whatever the height of that wall is, I would guess that 90% or higher of the existing bathrooms have this height issue over the toilet, so I'm kind of just reinforcing.
Good job, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see,
Yeah.
I think that's really huge.
Yeah. So it reiterates the point that a specific variance request should be made for the toilet itself. And yeah, we can follow up with Josh and ABB and figure out how we can work on that.
Yeah.
Janelle? Oh, sorry, Jack. Did you still have more questions?
Oh, the only one other one that I relative to my unit is this stair width. Mine happens to be 27.5 inches, so I'm assuming that we're definitely gonna have to widen that. That's possible, but I don't know. I mean, it's been fine for 40 some years, 40, 50 years or whatever it is. So, but anyway, is there any possibility that could be another variance request on the with the stairs? I'm guessing there's a lot of other ones like that too, because
Yeah, you're correct.
that's what the wall, the natural wall allows, where the cabinets are below and so on, and just extending that out, that's about what will allow us as is anyway.
Yeah, I would say that would be a tougher ask. They've already given a variance for that stair width. So I would assume that 30 inches is gonna be pretty hard and fast, like that's, but we can always ask, but they've already made an exception for that.
And Dave and Jack, to further on that, I know through conversations with the A&B guys, they spent a lot of time digging until they found in the 1970 code and cited that they had to give the county something to hang their hat on, especially when you talk about anything egress, pass, and life safety. The county could hang their hat on the code at the time the place was built. And that's where the 30 inches came from. And I know A&B had to do a lot of jockeying to get the county to agree to that.
Yeah, and to just kind of give a little bit of gravitas to that, yes, many of you are probably aware of the fire sprinkler issues in condos in Honolulu, and not having a fire sprinkler system, which is very, very expensive. It would be tough to get more of a variance on a egress, pathway, which is a direct life safety consideration. So just a little bit of context there.
Yeah, good. So thank you.
Okay. Janelle, I was going to get through some of the more pre-written questions, and we'll jump back to hand raising if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, my question may have already been answered, but I'll wait. That's fine.
Okay. Dave, back to the pre-submitted questions. This one, again, is talking about square footage. I have no closet inside the entry door to the right of the loft bathroom. The floor plan shows sliding doors. There are some small shelves, but the wall is framed out with a vent. No floor space, in other words. It's a couple feet. But will matter as I wiggle the square footage down to 199 square feet to 214. So again, I think this goes back to your green line, red line scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get it down to the 199 or less.
I also have a question about taking the ladder riser out and converting the roughly 10 square feet of space to a landing as opposed to mezzanine space, essentially making the area part of the stairwell.
That landing is still going to be considered part of your square footage.
Oops, sorry, this one has their unit number in here. The report for unit blank has the stairways and mezzanine guard out of compliance. Also, the size of the mezzanine must be reduced. My questions are related to the financial cost for a fix for the code issues. Oh, this person isn't here. So they're looking for some costing done to bring stairs up to code. Can the wall by the stairs be moved for a new staircase? Would a circular stairway be better? Ballpark cost estimate. So Dave, kind of a loaded question there about what can be done about the stairs. And I know we did talk about doing kind of a pre-engineered design for circular stairs, and those would be allowable. Care to elaborate?
Sure, yeah, and just to kind of give you an idea, you can usually get a prefab circular stair for $2,000 to $3,000. I would imagine it's gonna be at least that to install it, but you know, dollar amounts, please take with a grain of salt, that's a ballpark. Yes, we've looked briefly, we've started looking at a few things on how do we fix these things. There will be some structural things we have to look at for moving the wall to widen the stairs, and what that entails. But we feel confident that we can make that work as, you know, with as minimal invasion as possible. And economy, we know, is extremely important. So.
Does the bathroom ceiling need heightening over the shower? Again, I feel like this goes back to the 7 foot or any type of variance for bathrooms that we could achieve.
Yeah, 7 feet. Needs to be 7 feet.
It appears that there is space to make the loft smaller and still work. Is that accurate? That'd be a unit specific question. And I don't, and this person said that they're not here.
Yeah, I mean, you can always make it smaller. That's what we're gonna have to do with a lot of them. So that's what we're having to look at.
Does the size of the mezzanine include the bathroom? Also for code calculations as to the requirement that the mezzanine space must be 1/3 of the downstairs area? Yes.
Yes, all usable space.
Shelby, take note on this particular one we're looking at. It seems like that there might have been a typo on one of the reports, please.
Yeah, it's noted.
Okay. Stairs. It seems that our stairs are too narrow and too steep and not high enough. Will the architect come up with a plan to change to be made to make us code compliant? I would assume that's going to be a yes, Dave.
Correct. Yes, we'll look at, and you know, we're open to all kinds of you know, sort of strategies and solutions. What we have discussed is coming up with 4 or 5 designs that will fit multiple different applications. Provide and potentially provide those. People can choose from. If you don't like what has been provided, then we can work with you to make a unique design. We're assuming that that would have additional cost. We haven't worked all of that out. We're just coming up with ideas, and this is a good forum to talk about those sorts of things. But yes, we know how to fix these issues, and we're happy to help do that.
This person hopes that we can hire the same contractor to do all the work once the permit is issued. And you know, since our last meeting, we've had to put a little thought towards how this actually will play out. And everyone understands that you're going to have 1 building permit submittal per building. So all the units in building A will be under the same building permit. The county wanted minimal building permit submittals. So I do think that the best way, both smoothly, economically, would be that, you know, you're going to have a plan set detailing out the work to be done in each unit, that you do run a competitive RFP by building. So we would help put together a bid list of qualified contractors and make them compete for the work. Then we could have individual construction contracts put together to each unit owner, so that isolates the cost to each unit owner, but they would bid it as one project, if that makes sense.
And that does make sense, Josh, because each building permit would have to be pulled by a contractor. So having one contractor, there may not be any other option unless that contractor was okay subbing out work and overseeing it, but still being the contractor of record.
Yeah, we spun that using the license that we have, Dave. But it gets into a real funky risk position when you have one contractor responsible for other people's works across multiple homeowners. It's a funky one. I do
Yeah.
think bidding a competitive RFP with one general contractor makes the most sense.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, we're making some headway here. Then we can get to the yellow hands that are raised here in just a couple moments. And we're about halfway through the hour, so I believe we're doing pretty good. Is the space between directly below the sink on your drawing, we plan in the space between directly below the sink on your plan, we plan to put a bathtub shower. Do you see any issues with that aside from having to reduce square footage?
As long
It
as
sounds
the
like that.
7 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really sensing the theme here that we need to get one more variance, Dave.
Yeah.
I would like to add a loft bathroom. The water supply and waste line is already stubbed up the column in the floor loft. So they have the riser put in for sanitary and supply. My remodel stairs are presently 28-inch wide. Will this be grandfathered?
Unfortunately, no.
I have a pull-down attic stair in master to access owner storage areas. Will this be acceptable as is?
Yes.
So I think okay, you know what he's talking about, like back in the master.
Yeah, so, and I've worked on other projects in similar situations, just so you all know, and Josh has brought this up, there are hundreds of condo units that have this issue. In the 70s and late 60s, for whatever reason, architects just love to draw these lofts in and leave them just kind of for the owners to do whatever they want. And so in some instances, we were not able to make those spaces legal because of a number of reasons. What we came up with the county and the fire department was if you had a pull down attic access ladder, then that is okay, because that doesn't allow people to constantly go up and down. And so it's more of a utility access. So it's not something that you would use to go to your bedroom because it's not comfortable and it's retractable. So if you are accessing a storage space with that, and it is just storage, that should be okay.
Okay. Sorry, for some reason my Excel was getting a little glitchy there while doing a screen share. Question, the loft square footage was reported too large. Should it have been calculated from the entire downstairs, not just open space? We've clarified that it's the entire downstairs. The county variance at the end of the reports explains the calculation. So we have that cleared up, but I'd have to look at this exact unit report, but it sounds like even with the variance, the upstairs space is still too large. What are the plans for replacing everyone's non-compliant stairs? I'd be in favor of simple, straightforward style that hangs off the loft without cutting through the hallway closet. You know, Dave, you can elaborate, but this would go back to, we're gonna have a couple different plans that people could choose from. And then the last would be if someone wants to pay for additional time for a custom design with you and your team. So I know that we've been asking you for, you know, kind of some rough pricing. That'll help people make an informed decision, you know, like X amount of dollars for a preloaded design, X amount with a custom design, which gets you, you know, 10 hours a day and his team's time, something like that. But then once we're going to use that to get a barometer on what people want, Dave. And then if we get into a situation where, say, like building A, everyone just wants a preloaded design, then if we could circle back and there's any room to adjust the price, since you're doing just preloaded designs and you have many of the units that are kind of typical, so you're doing some duplicating in some instances. You know, that's what we'd want to iron out after, I think, where we have a general direction where everybody wants to go with this. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, there are online stair companies that can give you quotes for stairs if people are just interested. You need to know that shipping is expensive, and that doesn't include installation. So, but just to start to get you in the ballpark, if and when, you know, we do, and it is determined it's a good idea to do the pre-designs, potentially we can work with you and your team, Josh, to get estimates for those different designs so that people can have a dollar amount.
And I do know that we've taken a couple of these, you know, just kind of your schematic plans, and we are having a couple of people work up just some ROM pricing, again, just for, you know, kind of gut check of the direction we're going so people can expect what's coming.
Yeah.
Mezzanine square footage. Mezzanine space is checked as additional space on page 1. Should it be original space?
So I think we went over that, what the original mezzanine space was, and the original mezzanine space would be below the maximum allowable now. So if your mezzanine is above the maximum allowable, it was increased in square footage either by removing the wall in the back or extending out over the living room.
Okay. This note on page 10 is, it's reiterating what the county is going to allow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just additionally on that, Josh, the mezzanine guard is unchanged from the way it was built and should be allowed. Yes, as long as it is original, and in that original drawing, it was 42 inches.
We got a little appreciation coming across to Reno and everyone for being volunteers and putting up with all this stuff for about the past 2 or 3 years and pushing for your team. This particular person in our unit has less than 30 inches width on the stairs and unknown if they can comply with the ratio issues. Yeah, that's going to have to be a condition that is corrected. Let's see, we have questions below. I've been trying to nudge the stair issue forward for 2 years and have these hard related questions outside of the glare of Zoom calls, but unfortunately there have been 0 responses to any of my emails. When is this round of surveying going to start? We're not in the first group. So we just now have a signed agreement for the second round of 35, and the scheduling to get in there is in the works. So I think Reno, you guys were going to coordinate getting the key access and opening doors, and we're going to firm updates in Hawaii off grid.
Yeah, that's what that's what the plan is. I think I've got my email squared away for Hawaii off grid. To try shooting me one. We were having problems with that, but the sooner the better. That's why we invited everybody to this Zoom meeting, because probably most of the people or half the people on this Zoom right now have not even seen the report and has not even had a survey done. So I'm glad you're recording it all so they can go back when they do get the report. They can go back and maybe look at this and save some time for answering questions.
Why? Got it. Why the delay in scheduling for months? So there's twofolds. One, we'd done the first batch of surveys, reports were drafted, but there was a pause until we had it in writing. If we continued to publish reports and proceed down the path based off of verbals from the county, that would be at a risk. Because if the county comes back and says, oh, just kidding, A, B, and B must have misheard us, then it's a question of who's going to pay for all the rework. And we didn't want to be in that situation with Hawaii off grid. The other is going forward, understanding when Hawaii off grid goes in to look at these units, that these are the variances we're looking at. So the pause was, it took the county about 6 weeks to confirm their variances and write to us. What are the options at a high level on stairs? As I don't see that any are not drastic, expensive, and impractical. I'm not too sure what that question's asking, other than it depends on case-by-case basis what you got, how narrow they are, if there's any structural modifications needed to widen stairs or lengthen them. I think if we're looking at pretty tight options, you know, that's actually where something like a circular staircase could actually be a very economical solution. Dave, you have anything else to add?
No, Ethan sums it up.
I think the last question is answered. How are we negotiating and finalizing with the county while not knowing the extent of issues? They put in writing the variances that they're going to accept. So we're pretty much locked in, with one exception of going back and asking one more on the 7-foot ceilings. You agree with that, Dave?
Yeah.
Why is the stairs and related ratio issues being addressed so late in the process, which seems to limit maybe our options? Again, we got variances from the county, and we're pushing this as quickly as we can. While I understand the grandfathering is the word that the county does not want to hear, isn't it worse to agree 30 inches and then come back later that we could not practically comply? They're giving us 30 inches as a gift, and that's going to save a lot of people's existing stairs, but they're not going to go any more narrow than that.
Can I,
Floor area.
can I just make a clarification? I'm not sure, because the text that well, the latest text didn't say that, but through working with ABB, I think their verbal agreement, the county said that they would prefer a 36-inch stair. But they would accept a 30-inch stair because of the coding in 1970s, but they would accept a 30-inch stair if it's impractical to, you know, do a 36-inch stair. In other words, if it cut into the egress area, then you could go with a smaller stair. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure if people have a 28-inch stair and they want to build a 30-inch stair. I don't know. There's nothing in writing about that, but I'm not sure that the county may or may not permit us to do that. If you go from a 20-inch stair and you have the ability to put in a 36-inch stair, they may hold us to that. And that's something that we should look into that and see, because I think a lot of people are just assuming 30 inches, wham, okay, get me one of those 30-inch squares, 30-inch stairs, and we'll be done with it. I think there's a little gray area there that we should clarify before we start doing any construction. And we could talk about that later. I just want to I don't want somebody to end up with a 30-inch stair and the county saying, well, you can put a 36-inch stair here, and that's what you should have done. It doesn't say it in the latest letter that we received. I don't believe it says it there, but there were talks about that leading up to that letter. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. I don't know if we want to, you know, pull that scab back or not.
Yeah, so Reno, if a 36-inch is technically infeasible, then a width of not less than 30 inches will be allowed. So I would say technically infeasible could potentially be a number of things: increased cost, you know, creating an issue with egress downstairs or existing space downstairs. So I think that I would recommend, you know, getting sort of legal ease opinion on technically infeasible, and we would follow whatever is recommended there. But I can see from our point of view that given the space is existing, the downstairs floor plan is existing, to not, encumber, reduce, detract, especially from potential egress pathways, the hallway, et cetera. We could reasonably say that a majority of the time it could be technically infeasible. However, I think we also would want to look at, look at it a little bit closer as we look at designing a solution, in that if we do take and make a 36-inch wide stair, that may alleviate some of the square footage of the loft as well. So it could be a pro and con.
Right. I just wanted to bring that up, so everybody understands that.
Definitely, it is a good way to describe it as a gray area that we'll need to be conscious of as we move forward.
Thank you.
Alrighty, I think as we got through a lot of that stuff, brain juices were flying, and we can go to the questions that are coming up organically. Mr. Anderson, sir. Oh, you're on
Thank
mute,
you.
Dale.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
I just got off mute. So the question I have has to do with this additional green area that heads back towards the back of the loft area. Is that because the 7 feet goes off of the beam, but if you go to the roof line, it goes back, and that might be acceptable as far as 7 feet?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that's how the difference is. And then the second question is, sorry, about the same thing, is in our unit, the master bedroom or downstairs bedroom, basically the wall is basically a straight up vertical wall. I'm assuming that was the existing wall, and the bathroom upstairs, or our unit upstairs, butts against that wall, the same as, so I don't see that there's any extension to our upstairs unit from that standpoint. And I would assume that that's sort of correct. Is that how every other unit's sort of like that?
Look
For
at
the
that
most part?
section. Yeah, we can look at that section drawing again, and it might explain a little bit based on the floor framing. We see that it extends past that beam, past that 7-foot area. So it may have been a sort of a void space. Yeah, go ahead, sure.
This is Craig Damon. I saw the same thing in F401, exactly as Dale was saying. That closet line is completely in line with that same wall space.
Yeah. So if we zoom in here, you can see that there was just a void space that was up there originally. If I had to assume, I would assume that the architects were calculating that mezzanine space based on the code at the time, which would have been similar, but not as restrictive as far as its ratios go, but they probably weren't allowed to utilize, because it was a new building, all of the downstairs. So that's why originally the loft was 156 to 168 square feet. And now with the calculation or equation that the county is allowing us to utilize, we can go up to about 199 square feet. So you can see there, there's a wall that's beyond, where that 7-foot beam is. So you could have realistically pushed that bathroom into that space. And it seems that that's what a lot of people did. And that toilet is occupying that space between the 7-foot and the 5'4". So that didn't require a modification structurally to the master bedroom or anything like that. But that space was just a void space originally. And like I said, I've seen this in a number of different spaces of buildings of that era. I think the architects were just it was a wink and a nod, and these people are gonna have to deal with this long after I'm dead. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Janelle.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification that well, our unit, we do not, I think most units have, underneath the stairs have built-in cabinets and storage. Ours is open space. My question is, does the area beneath the stairs count against the loft square footage, or does it count for the first floor square footage?
It's part of the first floor square footage.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, next we got Grams McLean.
Yes, hi. Question I have, I've looked at a lot of the units on the top floor, and I think I'm correct in most of the stairs would be 27, 28 inches. I don't think there's very many to the 30. And by extending, I mean, ours is 28, 27 and a half, 28. By extending that out, it would obviously impinge on the hallway down below. So what's the minimum width for the hallway down below?
Minimum width for the hallway down below would be 36 inches and the minimum ceiling height would be 7 feet. So similar. So we'd have to look at a solution to that. You know, one thing I will throw in here is very few of the units that we've looked at meet the rise and run. So they're usually too steep. So they need to be demolished and corrected, rebuilt correctly. With a shallower rise and run, 7-11. So, you know, either way, we're going to be demolishing the stairs.
Yeah, but it would still impinge by bringing it out 3-4 inches. Would certainly, you'd have a bit of a throat in that hallway where the kitchen is itself, right?
Yeah, we're going to look at that a little bit closer as we look at the solutions. So we've only sort of, you know, partially looked at what the potential fixes are. We've been focusing on the, you know, collecting the information and analyzing what's existing.
And the only other question I have is they're giving us a variance back to, they're saying that relying on the 1970 code, as it's a major fix for a lot of people here with the stairs. Is there any way of appealing to that code to get a variance on that as well?
You'd sure try, but I would not imagine it would be too successful. You know, the county is understaffed and overworked. I'm really surprised about the variances that they've allowed, you know, without going to the Board of Variances and requesting this, which.
Yeah, no, I think you guys have done a great job, but I mean, I think the number of people that are involved here, I mean, I don't know anybody, maybe there are, that have got 30-inch stairs, but it's a lot of, I'd say the majority of people would be less. It's a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. Just to let you know, we have a couple of things that we're working on that are with the, you know, a Board of Variances. And that can be a multi-year process, just getting to see the board, if they have quorum, if they're gonna meet, if the planner that you're working with has everything in order before, the public notices, like just going to the Board of Variances is a process in itself. And so that's one of the reasons I'm just, when I see this and they've already allowed certain things to happen, that is very valuable. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, Dave, to expand on his and kind of what Reno was getting at, you know, in addition to asking about the upstairs 7 foot in the bathrooms, you know, if we do have, say, a 28-inch stair and increasing that to, say, just 30, does anything with the headspace downstairs in the hallway? I mean, which one do we violate at that point, guys? So, I mean, that could be a good second point as we've now dove deeper into this, of what we maybe could discuss of what they'll allow on a case-by-case basis. That makes sense?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And one thing I will say about the head height, you know, if they were to allow anything, what I would imagine, I can't speak for them, obviously, and I've never been in this exact situation, but the minimum would probably be 6'8". So you could potentially get 4 inches out of it. The height at that back wall, that wall against the master bedroom, looks to be about 5'4". So it's gonna be a tough ask.
There's, if I could just interject something, like on our stairs, I know we need new stairs, but if somebody's really close, our stairs are attached to the ledger board or the stringer, is that what the correct term?
Yep.
So, and they're like, I think, 8 by 8 by 2s, which are 1.5 inches. So if somebody were to cut in to those stringers or ledger boards, that would give you an additional 1.5 inches on both sides, where the stairs would actually sit on the support of the boards as opposed to being on the inside of the boards. So that's something that may or may not help some people.
Yeah, and that's something I would imagine, given how close a lot of these stairs are, you know, just simply working with the existing space, removing potential trim or non-needed frame might be able to give us that couple of inches. So again, it's something that we'll have to look at. Now, that being said, Reno, I believe that your stairs don't meet the rise and run. So
That's correct.
we're gonna have to get rid of those anyhow.
And they're not even close to 30. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up for other people. So thank you.
Okay, hands are kind of getting shuffled around, but I remember, Becky, you've been waiting a while. Would you like to go?
My question is, we do not have a bathroom on our mezzanine or in our loft, and we would be interested in adding it. And just, I meant to send an email and I didn't, so I apologize for just now asking you this. But we'd like to understand better if it's possible to the partnership with the plumbing for them to go ahead and plumb up and like pre-plumb it. I'm sure I'm not using any of the right words, and hopefully you can.
So Becky, my understanding is yes, you want to run that request through Reno to the board to Sagewater. And maybe Reno's not in that mess, but I just threw you in there, Reno. Because what they will do, to my understanding, is that they'll put the risers in. So then, you know, under permit with Hawaii Off Grid, then that would be a good time to get your bathroom in and permitted as well too.
Okay, so because we spoke with Sagewater today, they did a walkthrough. So I'll circle with Reno and maybe you can give me some direction. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Sydney put out an email a while back asking if you wanted to do that. And you could save one step by just calling Sydney directly.
Okay.
And letting her know.
Will do. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your work, everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah. Craig, Mr. Damon.
Yes, quick question on the guard. Mine is apparently 35 inches. Will that be allowed? Because as far as I know, that's the way it was built. My family has owned this unit since they were built.
Yeah, so again, even today, a minimum guard in an R3 occupancy, which would be a single family home, you know, that would maybe comply depending. But as they were drawn, what appears to be the permit set of drawings, they're shown at 42. One thing I will say here is that a lot of those don't meet the minimum or the maximum 4 inches like spacing. So, and there's a couple things that we're always concerned about being architects: stairs and guards. That's the easiest way for somebody to get seriously injured. So if you do need to make modifications, typically the way that it works is up to 36 inches, you're not allowed to have more than a 4-inch sphere pass through the guard. After 36 inches, you're given a larger opening available. So it's easy to just add on to that. And what I would say from a safety standpoint is, especially if you may rent out your unit or something to that effect, or have people stay there that aren't, you don't know, or have young kids, I would be very risk averse and say that adding a couple of, 6 inches would be a highly recommended.
If the unit was built the way it is, and apparently the county allowed them to be open for habitation, it seems that they would have allowed these variances on the spot. So whether it's the 7-foot ceiling issue or the guard height, it seems that those should already be, lack of another term, grandfathered in.
Sure.
Just
So
my
technically, grandfathering would be something that was built before a permit system was in place. After that, you would have a legal non-conforming, meaning that it doesn't conform to today's rules, but it was legal at the time. And then you have where you have a variance. So it is not the county's responsibility when they're providing inspections or certificate of occupancy to be completely omnipotent and be able to see, identify, call out, and bring to the attention if something doesn't meet the letter of the code. This could have been something that was overlooked. If it was identified by a building inspector, then it should have been brought to the attention, and there should have been a paper trail that was created and a variance that was created in order to, I guess, put that down in the book so you have something to go off of.
Thank you.
Mr. Bennett, G404.
Yes, thank you. It was mentioned earlier that since each building has a single permit, that there would be potentially an RFP for the entire building to get contractors in place. What would the timing on that be? Like, would that be before Sagewater even starts on your building, or how would that timing work to get that list of contractors available that we could start planning the work with?
We can put a list together real quick, but the first thing that needs to happen is the architect needs to finish their plans so the contractors know what they're bidding.
Okay.
The next is a time frame that's outside of our control, and that's going through the county permit process.
Okay, and then for the architect, then for the owners who want to add bathrooms, will there be kind of specific, like a choice of bathroom designs, like probably 4 or 5, like you mentioned earlier, or somebody mentioned earlier about even for some of the compliance issues, providing kind of 4 options that are kind of consistent across the buildings, or it's going to be building or owner specific?
Dave, talking like preloaded designs for people that want to add bathrooms.
Yeah, so I think that, it would be the same as sort of an existing bathroom. We know where the plumbing stack is, and we know what's feasible. So if you don't have a bathroom, or you do have a bathroom now, where we draw that bathroom would be in a legal conforming location, and it would be the most economical, feasible location. So adding a bathroom now where one doesn't exist would most likely be, for practical purposes, easier than say moving an existing, fixtures and drain pipes and things like that. Just always remember, when you do have a renovation situation, we always tell our clients to kind of allot 20 to 25% extra. If you're building a house from scratch on a flat piece of ground, add 25% if you're modifying an existing structure, because you need to include demolition and the funny things that you find when you start building, and the fact that you have to work around and in finished spaces.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bennett, I actually got something that I just pulled up that might be also informative to understanding timeframe. We did this, can you see a flow chart that I just brought up?
Yes.
Okay, we did this at the request of the County of Maui, so that they had a handout for people that lost their house to understand, just in general, the building process. And I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit. So right now, we would technically be in, we'll call it schematic design. That work for you, Dave, since we're kind of getting rough data put together?
That would be a little bit of a stretch. I'd say pre-design because we haven't started putting down plans, but we are definitely very close.
Close enough, thank you. So as we produce here from, you engage your architect, we're kind of entering schematic design quasi. You proceed through your design development until now you have a completed plan set. So now you have two different paths. One is you put in your applications for building permits to the County of Maui. And the other is now you have a complete design set, so you're ready to get contractors to give you bids. When we send out an RFP, on the fast end, we would give someone 4 weeks. Typically, we want to give people about 6 weeks to produce estimates for decent sized projects. So 6 weeks, you get numbers back, then you qualify, you level out, do apples to apples. If we green light it, okay, cool, we're moving to contracts. So let's call that whole process there, from when you have someone under contract and you can release them to start ordering materials, 2.5, 3 months if everything goes pretty smoothly. Concurrently to that going on, you're submitting permit applications to the County of Maui. And maybe 9 months, a year, to be honest. Dave, one thing that I'm not clear on is if they're going to require a separate SMA filing for this or just rope it in with their IR project. You got any feelings on this?
We could request an additional scope added, amend the scope of the original SMA. We could, and the argument would be that the requirement of this work was brought up within the scope of work that was previously approved. So that would be the preferable route so that we could eliminate the need to, request another SMA and go through that process. So that would be the first thing to do, is try to get that amended scope approved. And if that fails, then yes, another SMA would need to be applied for.
I got a really dumb question. It's chicken and egg. And after the fact permits, usually it's you're getting a permit for something that's already done and assuming it's code compliant. In this, we're getting after the fact permits that also require code compliant work. So I hate to put it out there, it's a big, ugly question, but if we're doing corrective work to something that was never permitted for the purpose of getting after the fact permits, what's stopping us from starting quickly?
It's a good question. With an after the fact permit, we get into situations where we maybe don't have a contractor that does things correctly. And recently we had a permit where they didn't get the inspection before the concrete was poured. It's a brand new build, and we had to do it after the fact on the foundation. Luckily, we had documented and been on site. The contractor, for whatever reason, did not get the inspector out there. So the after the fact that can be used in a situation when you're even building something new. However, given the fact that we're already in communication with the county, I think we would want to have this conversation and say, we're willing, we're working on this, we're working on this, we're trying to be compliant. Very reasonable to try to get all this work done at once. Would that be an acceptable process? I think we wouldn't want to get caught doing it just because they've already been very helpful in approving variances.
So just a quick question. They're gonna be getting permits for each building. Do all the units on that fourth floor building have to be signed on with a design before you pull a permit?
I'm sorry, Reno, could you say that again?
The permits are gonna be per building. Do all the units on the fourth floor of a building need to have a design, approved before you can pull a permit? And how long is a permit good for? I guess that's the second part of it.
Sure. So, yes, ideally, what we draw is what's gonna be built. Otherwise, there would be additional scope of work involved to go back and amend those drawings and have them approved. So there are two answers to your, how long is a building permit good for? Building permit is good for, per the Department of Public Works or Developmental Services Administration. You have 6 months to pick up your permit once it's approved, and then 6 months to call for your first inspection. Now, the IBC says a building permit is good for 5 years. That being said, we know that there is a requirement that this work be completed before the permits are all closed out. I'd let Josh jump in and he'll, elaborate on that, but that's the technical answers for you.
Thank you.
I think you nailed it, Dave. Mr. Steck, do you have another one?
Yes, yes, I did just, I think I heard you say when you were going through this flow chart of how things are gonna happen, that basically you put this together, that we're not gonna have an authorization to start work for about a year. Does that line up, or did I mishear it?
You want a rough number? That's what I'll give you. I can tell you we've had other projects, we've gotten permits as quickly as 4 months. We've had others that we've waited 2 years. It depends on what the project scope is, how well the plans are put together, how bad of a day the reviewer is having, which reviewer you get, and if someone decides to go on vacation for 2 months at a time. There's really no consistency with the County of Maui. What I can tell you is that this architectural firm, and we have a lot of projects with a lot of other architects. We actually have this architectural firm that does cursory reviews for off-island architects and other projects of ours, because they got a staff of about 24 and they're all here on Maui, and they're very good with getting through the County of Maui's permitting process. So off-island architects, where there's someone mainland with a Hawaii stamp, or Oahu architects, we've actually started running Hawaii off-grid as a plan reviewer before we go into permits, so that they add the correct things that the county looks for, or they take off things the county might flag, if that makes sense. So we got a good team here to do the best we can.
Yeah, thank you. Another questions that comes to mind is, our owner is going to be allowed to do this, at least some of the work or all of the work on their unit. Is that going to be a reasonable thing to do? And we're not, I'm thinking part of it involves inspectors, getting inspectors out in a timely fashion. I don't know how that works on Maui. Anyway, kind of a rambling question, but that's best I can do right now. Actually, just lots of things going on.
Once we do get there to the work, it depends on everyone's backlog. We went out for bid for a rebuild project in Lahaina, substantially sized. So there's, about a dozen contractors between here and Oahu that would qualify to do this type of work. And, we talked to each 12, only 3 could meet the time frame we were looking for, because that's how saturated people are. But everyone's backlog it's a revolving door. So the people that are stacked right now, they'll be looking for work, in 6 months from now. Then when it comes time for county inspectors, that's the one thing the county is actually pretty pretty darn good and reliable at is you call for inspection and they're there the day that they tell you that they're going to be there. They are actually good at that.
Yeah, might not be that easy 6 to 12 months from now when hopefully Lahaina gets started rebuilding.
You know, we went through the list of people we invited for this particular project, and you know, there were about 4 or 5 companies that said, "Hey, we're stacked right now, but we could look at taking this on like Q1, Q2 of 2025." So I do think that it's going to get a little bit interesting, but I think you're always going to find availability because just of how work lines up. People are always looking to fill gaps in their backlog. So, you know, company may say, hey, we can actually take on this building A. It fits perfectly where we have a little bit of a lull in between projects.
Good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, one thing that I'll say is that, you know, we can look for some creative alternatives to speeding up the process. I mean, we know that time is of the essence, so we'll do everything that we can. We've been working with the county for a very long time, trying to improve the permitting process. We're always trying to try new things with them, and this is an ongoing, I guess, it's very highly desired from the current administration, from the county council, to figure out the permitting process and make it better and finding creative solutions. So we've had a number of conversations just within the last month, utilizing experience we have in other jurisdictions and how other jurisdictions speed up their permitting process. So we'll try everything that we can. I won't make any promises, but I know that Josh as well is a squeaky wheel, and we constantly are trying to make improvements. So if there's a way to make things happen faster, we will definitely seek that.
Jamie, D403.
Jamie Moss.
Jamie, if you're trying to speak, you're on mute. Hey, Dave, I'm going to buzz through the chat. There were just a couple questions, and I know that you only had an hour. So thank you for you guys and your whole team for going a little long here.
Hey, Josh.
I think yes.
Hi, this is Jamie. Sorry, I was trying to get off of mute.
Go ahead.
So my question, have we gotten or has anyone discussed with the county the building permit regarding the water meter sizing?
That's already done.
Is it done? Because I got an email, I got a letter from them stating that they did not have a permit on record for the 4th floor water meter sizing, that all they had on record was a permit for just the IR project in general, and it didn't have anything pertaining to the water meter. So for mine that I submitted just for my unit, they sent me back a letter stating that per the water meter sizing worksheet that's dated from January 1999, for me to get the ATF for my single loft bathroom, that it exceeds the water demand calculations that are showing on our existing water meters.
Well, I can only tell you that it was done with ADB and it was incorporated into the IR project itself. And they just talked about a bathroom in the loft, you know, a sink, shower, toilet, and they ran the calculations and they said no problem. So
okay,
for this group, it's taken care of.
Sure.
Okay, so they've signed off then on the water meter size that would be needed for all of us having or adding loft baths.
That's what I was told. I was told, you know, that the water metering is sufficient for an additional bathroom, basin, and shower and toilet. in the loft areas. There's some mitigating issues that they're replacing all the toilets with low flow toilets, which reduces the size. And I think the fact, well, I can't remember what some of the other issues were, but
Hey, Reno,
yes.
Reno, I would just put a pin in this one right now, and we don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole, to be honest. AB&B told us in a meeting that they ran the fixture calculation and the existing water meter size is fine. So what I would do, Reno, is if you could initiate an email, or I can, over to AB&B to please verify this. Because we don't want anyone triggering this with this permit process, because the developmental fees associated with new water meters are ridiculous.
Right. Well, I think we should do that. If you want to get.
I'll send an email.
Andrew.
I'll shoot an email to AB&B right now.
And Jamie.
Yeah.
We'd sure love to have you back in the group, but you chose not to participate, so I don't know how you even got on the Zoom call. But
I was sent an email.
Yeah, and that probably.
So I just decided to.
Anyway, if you're always welcome back if you change your mind, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm almost done. By me bringing this to your guys' attention, it's because I seem to be further along than where you guys are. So it's for me to help just bring to the table what it is that I've already received, because I'm already ahead of the current position. So don't worry about it. I thought I was actually just helping and wanted to bring it to your light, but I have what I have and I can take it from here. I've been doing it on my own for 2 years. So I appreciate it. And again, I wouldn't have joined. I got the email, so I signed on.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your input.
Thank you.
All righty. Dave, how you guys doing on time?
We're getting pretty tight. About another 5 minutes. I should have somebody walking into the office, but we were able to prepare before. So yeah, let's push through it if we can.
Okay. Just acknowledging any questions here in the chat. Does the storage space in the loft need to maintain that 7-foot height too? So I think people would have a storage closet in the back of their loft with a lower than 7-foot ceiling height.
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question in a way, because they could potentially be that could encompass square footage. You could be over your square footage if you're utilizing that space, is one answer to that. But for the purposes of depending on the closet, like if you're full of shelves and you can't get in there, we need to look at that. That's a little bit of a nuance that we might be able to find a way to utilize that space if it's applicable, if it's all built-in millwork or something to that effect. But really, the code doesn't want you to be able to walk below 7 feet in a sort of a R3 or commercial situation, i.e. a fire happens and you turn and run and you kind of have to jump over something, you hit your head, knock yourself out, and you die because your ceiling was too low. That's what the code is there for, rectifying something that had happened in the past, most likely. So the closet, there is a potential that we could utilize that if that is not space that you can get into. But that is a nuance that we really need to look at a little bit closer. But it wouldn't be a closet that you could step into for sure. If you can stand under it, then we're not going to be able to utilize it.
One person, H405, stairs 29.5 inches wide. They would have to widen theirs potentially by half an inch. Looking for creative solutions. Again, I'm not sure the details, what type of, baseboarding you have, if any, running upstairs, or the handrail, how far it protrudes out in addition to that 29.5 inch. But, Dave, again, a case by case, anything we could do to save stairs and scream for mercy. I don't have anything else for that one.
And then the question is does that stair meet the rise and run requirements, right? The other thing that I would say that goes back to the inspectors, the inspector for this area, her area, she is very, very particular. So west side is the hardest side to get any leeway from the inspector because she is very, very particular.
I remember bickering with her very kindly over half an inch on that exemption with the 50% bathroom ceiling height. Yeah, she's a stickler with her tape measure.
I've heard the same thing
Another
from
one.
Stage Water. So,
Let's see. 27, 28-inch stair widths, railing less than 42 inches. They must have been built like this originally. Again, I would say the code's the code, and if an inspector misses something, it's not a justifiable excuse for not meeting code.
Yeah.
And now they're looking.
Yeah, there weren't any stairs drawn originally in the permit drawings. So there were no stairs built with the original build out. If they were, they weren't permitted. Yeah, somebody could have paid the inspector not to say anything, but what was drawn and permitted, there were no stairs to that area. And I know that seems weird, but I've seen a half a dozen other similar projects exactly like that.
Last one I got is who will be contacting us regarding being included in the second round of surveys. If you have not been in the first round or in the next wave of 35 for the second round, I would say contact Reno to get added onto that list, and then we would have to get a revised proposal to add on any more to this second round.
yes, I think there's only 6 outstanding units, if I'm not mistaken, that have not been resolved. So give me a call.
That is 3:30 on the dot. Dave, thank you very much for participating on the hot seat, to you and your team. I know you guys got to run and we ran a little over, so thank you again.
Josh, there's somebody, I think it's Ted in B404 has had his waving his hand down in the bottom of the corner there.
Yeah, real quick question. Will there be a video available for us to review this presentation? Our audio?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. And
Shelby, who's recording it?
I am.
and what is the
Okay.
turnaround time? When will we be able to see this again?
Shelby?
Probably pretty shortly after this meeting. It'll be before the
Okay,
day's over.
fine. Thank you. That's good. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Carrie, did I say anything dumb? You need to correct me on anything? Thank you, Carrie. Okay, I think that's it. Reno, you got anything else?
No, I think that's it. I just want to thank everybody for participating, and this is probably some of your first Zooms that we've had. We've had them over the last couple of years, but I'm glad that Carrie, our attorney, is there, and you could see her. She's alive and well. Our consultant, Josh Berlin, and then all the folks at Hawaii Off Grid participated. So these are the people that are going to marshal us, hopefully, into a successful loft bedroom bathroom.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.